The session that I'd like to introduce, Dr. Mattea Allert is going to be the session chair for it, and it's really in the context of personalized medicine, personalized neuromodulation. How do we kind of personalize this for everyone in the community and kind of bring that forward? So Dr. Allert, who's an NIH T32 fellow for translational neuromodulation. So take it away.
Hi, all, and thank you, Matt, for that kind introduction. So I am here to discuss with you all and with everyone on the panel how to be more inclusive and intentional in the designing of clinical trials. So historically, marginalized people and women have been excluded from the clinical trial space, and this has generally led to a distrust in the medical and scientific community. And I think, as you all know, neurological conditions impact everyone. So how can we reach out to folks of various backgrounds so that they can participate in these trials? And I'm hoping that at the end of this panel, you all will walk away with some practical and meaningful tips and suggestions on how to better engage different people and how to better engage the community and how to discuss this problem that we're seeing. So I'm hoping that we can take questions from the audience, and feel free to raise your hand if you have specific questions. All right, with that, I will have each panelist briefly introduce themselves and the work that they do. Thank you.
Yeah, me? Hey. Hi, my name is Lindsey Jardine. I am a clinical regulatory and quality expert. Have been working in startup world for better part of almost 15 years now. So I specifically work in early stage to later stage. So a lot of the product development all the way through to commercialization, post-commercialization, and beyond. I have been involved in studies that are is multinational, multicultural, anything for a very long time, all the way down to the just first in human trials. So recruitment and retention and understanding patient population and being able to translate that and make that a staple in all of our data has been a passion of mine for the past almost 15 years now.
Hi everyone, can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Good morning, I'm Deborah Rose. I'm a neurologist by training. I'm currently a behavioral neurology and neuropsychiatry fellow at Hopkins. And I'm very excited to be here. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. So currently I see patients in our memory center. So much of our work is actually focused on treating the neuropsychiatric symptoms of dementia, as well as folks who are who are either in the early stages or the later stages of cognitive impairment. But we do interact quite a bit with our colleagues in especially movement disorders who do engage a lot with the neuromodulation techniques, and that's certainly part of the conversation for therapeutics in the dementia space. In terms of recruitment for clinical trials, I would say that much of my experience stems from what I've done in the community. So in residency, I was in North Carolina. I was part of the Alzheimer's Association. And currently still am part of the Alzheimer's Association, the Baltimore chapter. But we have such a privilege of engaging with communities, most of whom are actually underrepresented. That's my particular area of interest, engaging with folks who are historically underrepresented in trials as well, and informing them about not only the importance of the early detection of dementia, that's my particular area of work and my niche, but the importance of actually getting out there, trying to be good advocates for themselves and getting involved and asking their providers, their clinicians for more information about this work that is ongoing. I'll share a little bit more as we continue the conversation about that.
Hi everyone, I'm Sommer Amundsen-Huffmaster. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Neurology. And I would say I'm probably the newest to this space. I I was kind of first introduced to the idea of diversity in clinical trials when our lab joined the SPARKS-3 clinical trial, which is an exercise study in people with Parkinson's who've been recently diagnosed. And so through my training for that clinical trial, I really became interested in how can we increase the diversity. I started to look at our participant population for the movement disorders lab in all of our studies, and started noticing that it was like predominantly white, upper middle class research participants, and then just started to really learn from different places. The Parkinson's study group does a really great job in trying to increase the diversity in their clinical trials. And so, I'm here really to kind of talk about how, if you're interested from a very early stage, some things that we can do here at the university or possibly at other universities. So we have an advocacy board that we're just starting up in the Department of Neurology that's Parkinson's research focused. And then I can also talk a little bit later about my experience doing a chat session with the CTSI program here at the University of Minnesota and engaging community members in kind of a listening session where you just pose questions and they give you all sorts of really important feedback. So I'm hoping to talk a little bit more about that later.
Great, thank you. So would you all be able to describe how you have included diverse perspectives in your work, and then sort of highlight collaborations or efforts that worked or didn't work, and why you think that is? Sorry.
Yeah, I can start. So the first part of including diverse perspectives when trying to recruit for studies is, one, you have to have a staff that is diverse. You can't have a group of monochromatic employees making diverse decisions. You need to make sure that you're including people from all different diversities and backgrounds, and if you don't have the resources to employ all those people, then community engagement is a really important one. So understanding who your patient population is and how you are reaching out to them, because every culture has a different means of communication. They have places where they congregate, they have activities that they enjoy, things like that. So making sure, if you don't have I work at startups specifically, a lot of startups. So if you don't have the resources to employ those people, then you need to make sure that you're going outside of your group to find how to include those people. Things where I've seen it work, user inputs, and that's everything from R&D all the way to clinical, making sure that you're getting as diverse of a population as necessary, as required, and as you can. Places where I've seen it not work, at larger companies, I've seen it kind of get a runaway effect, where you're getting so many perspectives and then all of a sudden your trial becomes this monstrosity where you have so many different endpoints to try and fit a bunch of different perspectives into a straightforward clinical trial. You have to make sure that you're still protecting your endpoints so you can get a product to market that is effective for everybody but not specific for anybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say for the work that I've been doing, so currently I'm in Memory Center, and so many of the patients there, we inform about the ongoing trials that are happening at Hopkins, and there's so many I'm not able to keep track of what's going on specifically in the Memory Center itself. And so that's one way that I am able to actively engage with the patients and inform them about trials that they would be eligible for. I also agree with what we've mentioned already about having a diverse workforce, or having diverse folks who are on the team who are just as passionate, just as kind of understanding of the importance of diversity within clinical trials. And I think it's important also, as I just kind of say this as a sidebar, but really wanted to say this up front. This is a really important conversation that we're having right now, because especially in the setting of our current federal landscape, we've made so much progress in the last half a decade, but a lot of that I feel is being stripped back because there's been a lot of egregious attacks on what's happening within the research and science space. And so we can't forget about the importance of this work, though, despite the pullback of a lot of that funding for some institutions, perhaps more than others. So we all need to continue to recognize the critical importance of making sure that we are working towards representation of all backgrounds within our work, because otherwise, how are we working towards getting nationally representative samples that could then, trickle down to the communities which are diverse? So back to what I do currently. I take advantage of that clinical encounter with patients to share what they would be eligible for, but then also we have to go back into the community, because as we might talk about a little bit later, not everyone actually has access to some of the clinics that we work in, and certainly don't have. Many folks don't have access to the Memory Center on the Bayview campus at Hopkins. And so it's important to engage with community organizations, community workers, so that we can physically put ourselves within the space as these patients or as these individuals who need to have an understanding of the importance of early detection of these diseases and the trials that are ongoing.
Yeah, really good, really good. I just want to piggyback on what you're saying, and make it really clear that you look at us and you may decide oh, these people are perfect for this kind of work for whatever reason that you're looking at us and deciding that. But this is something that everybody needs to be doing. If you are doing research with human subjects, you should be working on getting a diverse group of people. And so I don't want, even though, we've said, oh, it's really important to have a diverse staff. If you don't have a diverse staff, that's okay. This is still work that you should be just taking incremental steps in trying to do. And I think that's really important. So one thing that we found, our team did a chat session. And so CTSI has a center that will help you design a community outreach, question listening session. So we had 10 or 15 community members sign up to just join a Zoom call and answer questions. And we got a lot of really positive feedback from this chat session. We got a lot of really good ideas. And so we were just trying to say, where are the research participants? And we started looking back and we saw okay, people are not, we do DBS research, but we don't have a diverse pool of DBS patients to pull from. So how can we get diversity in our research? So we looked back one lower. Okay, do we have a diverse group of people attending and seeing movement disorder specialists? No, we do not. So we looked back one more. Okay, so are people getting diagnosed? And I don't know the answer to that yet, but I know that if they're getting diagnosed, they're not getting referred to a movement disorder specialist, and they're not even hearing about deep brain stimulation. So I had people in this chat session, and it was just it was kind of mind-blowing. We took this back to our greater department and the Udall Center. We said we are not getting a diverse group of DBS research participants because a lot of our communities in our area, this is Twin City people, they have never heard of deep brain stimulation. They asked me, is this FDA approved? I think this would be really beneficial if this was FDA approved. And I was this has been FDA approved for years, tens, decades. And so I think we really, in Parkinson's, we really need to go back a lot of levels and work on people getting diagnosed, work on them seeing movement disorder specialists. They wanted to know, is this covered by insurance? Yes, it is covered by insurance. And so, there's a lot of barriers before people even consider doing research. And so that's why I really think it's going to take everybody in this room to make to hit these goals that we have, because people are not, every single step of the way, we need to be drawing people in and making sure that they're safe and comfortable and that they are getting their needs met before they can help us with our research goals.
All right, thank you. And then would you all be able to talk about the barriers that you see for folks when participating in clinical trials? So like either mistrust of the medical community, or if you see issues around transportation or timing of the actual trials themselves, or if they're like working or something like that, or if they need childcare. And then can you give us some suggestions or methods that you've employed to overcome those barriers? I'm going to start with you, Lindsey.
What you just said, moving that patient funnel up, like where are we losing all these patients and how do we communicate with them is always a huge issue, because especially with like neurological disorders, not a lot of patients know about this stuff. Like it's for us here in the room, this is what we do all day, every day. So it's not new to us, but then if you talk to like my mom, she's like, I'm sorry, you're gonna put what where? No. and then breaking down those boundaries of like, it's been approved. It is covered by your insurance. You can get this done. You can have all of these things accessible to you, but even the idea of going in and asking a physician like, what are the treatment options is something that's not a normal conversation for a lot of people. They don't go to their specialist. They go to their GP and they say, I'm having trouble remembering things. I forgot where I put my keys, and then you study like that over time, and then eventually you get to a point. But a lot of these early clinical trials are not really offered or talked about. So where are we losing the patients in the patient funnel is a really, really, really important point. And I'm sorry, I forgot your other questions.
Just like how can we help people participate?
Yeah, the barriers, yeah. So in clinical trials, most clinical trials that I've run, you have a pool of money that covers transportation. You have a pool of money that can cover inconveniences like missing work or childcare, things like that. But if you don't have the means of doing that, then putting in place resources that can help. So if your clinical study isn't well funded from like a startup perspective or NIH funding, or if you don't, or if you're even going globally, and I know that this is specific to Minnesota Neuromod, but in Europe, you don't have the opportunity for paying people for their time for very good reasons, and we mitigate that here in the United States in a lot of ways. But providing alternatives or providing compensation in some way for their time, for the expenses that they're putting in, is some typical ways that I've gone about compensating people for the inconvenience of coming in to participate in a clinical trial, and also saying thank you for participating. What other questions?
Yeah, I would agree with that. There are a lot of legitimate concerns that patients have regarding participation in these trials. So we talked about transportation. People may not have their own means of transportation. They may have to rely on public transportation, which isn't always great. There's childcare, there's accessibility, so maybe they live too far away. So there are a lot of things that we have to think about. Work, we mentioned that. People are like, well, how am I need to provide for my family. I can't take the time to engage in this study, depending on how much of a commitment it is. And so I think the onus is on us, folks who are involved in the recruitment process, to actually learn about the resources that are available for the potential participants. So, some studies, as you just mentioned, offer like travel vouchers, parking, some do childcare. So I think it's quite rare to come upon a study that wouldn't offer a mixture of some of those things that can help offset the burden and concerns that participants will have before they even sign up for the study.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I will say for our people with Parkinson's, a lot of them are comfortable driving, and we have like a really good parking spot, easy access to the building. I think that's important. But for people who aren't comfortable driving, we get them a really nice car service. And it eats up a lot of our budget, but it allows people to keep coming back because they feel well taken care of. And I think that's what really matters is like you need your staff to be really, really attuned to like your participants' needs and what will keep them happy and how to keep them coming back. Childcare for our people is usually not a problem, but the car service is really, really helpful. Yeah, and then like if they aren't available during the work week, we can test on Saturdays or Sundays too, and so that kind of helps. But I think the other thing is that people don't always know that. Like our flyers don't always advertise. Like you don't want to advertise transportation if you don't want to pay for it for everybody. But I think kind of you got to work through like kind of balancing that for saying like, if you are having problems with transportation, they might self-select out. Or they don't know, like, oh, I don't have time for that. But if you can kind of make your flyers more accessible, have some of that information on there, that might remove some of those barriers before people decide not even to contact you.
I think a lot of that also there it is. Also the education when you're recruiting these patients. So I know flyers, it takes somebody to react to a flyer to come into the clinic. But once you're in the clinic, do you have a means of getting here? Do you have, what's stopping you from enrolling in this study? Safety concerns? Should I bring in the physician to walk you through like the process, the procedure, go through all of the inclusion, exclusion criteria, things like that, or like childcare? Or do you have a job that you need to be at? How can I adjust our schedule to fit your needs? Making it more accessible, because not everybody has the luxury of being able to take off work or like not have their kid with them. Is it okay for them to bring the kid into clinic with them? Like that's also a conversation that can be had. So breaking down, understanding their needs and wants, and not everybody is going to be very upfront about the things that they can and can't do. They're like, oh yes, I have X disease, there's X study going on, but I can't do it, so never mind. But why can't you do it? And not in like a coercive way, obviously, but like, let me help you. Let me be available for you. Let me answer your needs, your questions. And if there is a way for us to work it out, then let's work it out. But having that flexibility in your budget, your schedule, your time is something that when you're designing a clinical trial, it's very important to have those kinds of people on staff, those kinds of mitigation factors in order to reach the populations that we need to reach, because again, not everybody has the same lifestyle as the next person. Sorry, I went out of order.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, those are great ideas and suggestions. I guess I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk more about the community portion of it and how sort of what have you seen work and what methods have you used to move beyond this sort of like more this like transactional relationship and into a long-term community relationship that's built on like trust and understanding, and sort of how you got to that place to start with.
Yeah. Again, for me, it comes from bringing on a staff that's truly passionate about what you do. So I've worked at many companies before where participants have my personal cell phone, or they have a clinical research coordinator's personal cell phone. I, even as like a higher level employee at this point, I still know every single participant that comes into my study. Like one of my studies, there was a woman who couldn't read because she's from rural UK. And I'm like, can we consent her? Well, obviously, yes, we can consent her. Let's find somebody who can read the consent form to her. That's not our staff, but somebody else. Like, let's make sure that she knows what she's consenting to. She's in a great deal of pain. It was a pain study. Let's find a way to help her. Let's get her out of whatever situation that she's in where she can come in, feel heard, feel seen, and actually have her condition treated or participate in our study. But it took the clinical research coordinator at the site level to reach out to me to say, like, hey, this is what we're thinking about, probably not, maybe. I was like, absolutely not. We're definitely enrolling that person. If she wants to enroll, let's find a way to make it work for them. So it's all about the relationships that you're building. I personally believe in that very, very deeply. It's the relationship with your personal staff. It's the relationship that you're creating when you're building that clinical study. It's a family environment, and that's just the way I kind of function. And all of my clinical sites, I visit a lot, and that's to make sure that they know who I am. I'm always available for those phone calls, middle of the night, midday. If there's a patient that needs help or a question of enrollment, I'm there to answer the question. So and I think that really does foster the drive to build an environment, an ecosystem of inclusion, because you want to bring those people in that you don't always see all the time. So if they know that they can call, if they know that they have a question, there's something else. And I still keep in contact with some of my patients that I was at 5 companies ago, and I still get a bottle of wine from one of my patients from a previous study, because they were just it was a essential tremor patient, and now he draws all of the labels for his bottles of wine, and he sends one for me, sends one to me for Christmas, which is also my birthday. But yeah, it's building those relationships, and it's really great. And even that keeps like a touchstone of why I do this, why we do this, is seeing a patient go from desperate to feeling heard, feeling seen, whether we fix that problem or not. They feel that there's a path forward for them.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think it's a lot about our commitment to the community and showing them how much we care and how much we really are trying to work toward developing new therapeutics, new approaches that target everyone and not just one specific group of people. I think Dr. Lisa Barnes at Rush University, who spearheads the Minority Aging Research Study, is an incredible example of this. Her study has been going on since early 2000s, and I think they're now in their 20th anniversary year, and they have incredible retention rates. And I think a big part of that is because they are going into the community every single year and meeting folks where they are. So they go to churches, they hold community events, they go to the community centers, they do whatever they can to make sure that the trust is there, that the relationships are there, and that they're not just there to, collect some blood and do some MRIs and peace out. I think it's really important for us to keep in mind that for communities, especially, racially minoritized communities who have historically not been treated the way they should have in this nation, they have legitimate concerns about the legitimacy of many of these trials that are ongoing now. And I think the onus is on us to help kind of assuage them and show them that we are on their side, and what we're trying to do is actually work toward treatments that are equitable and that will be helpful for everyone.
Yeah. I think that's really great. I think retention is really important. I think like individual labs working out into like specific communities. So like if you're looking to get involved in this kind of work, like the best advice I had was just choose one place to go and try to like go there and build a relationship. But I will say that I think there's also a big problem with science education in general. And so if you think about, I don't know, I assume that we all have kind of some extended family, some friends who literally don't know like what a clinical trial is. Is that trustworthy? Can I trust scientists? And so I think we have like a really big job ahead of us. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed. Like, oh, I have to, educate like middle schoolers and high schoolers and college students. And people who live in the community near me and people who live in my state but are more remote, like rural Minnesotans. And I think it's just like, it's really, really a lot. And so you just need to pick one thing and say like, this is my little side project that I am going to try to change the world for the better. And so can I educate a small group of people on science or on what is research? It's not just drug trials. It's not just pharmaceuticals like being scary, you know, and how do I, like people don't know, like how do I know if this is good science or bad science? How do I know if this is a trustworthy clinical trial or a not trustworthy clinical trial? And so we need to build those trusts as a greater institution, and just kind of, and one of the people at the chat session said like really the best way to reach our community would be to educate our young people. So if we want grandparents to know about Parkinson's disease, we need their grandchildren to know about Parkinson's disease and to start seeing the signs so that maybe they send their grandparents to the doctor, or maybe they say like, Grandpa, you've been diagnosed. How come but your tremors are getting really bad? Maybe you should think about deep brain stimulation, and then all of the neurological diseases really need that kind of public education. It was Parkinson's Awareness Month this month in April, and there was a lot of support for people who are already diagnosed, who are already involved in the foundations, but I didn't see anybody saying like, hey, everyone who doesn't know what Parkinson's is, this is what it is, and this is what we can do about it. So, and I think that kind of the neurological diseases is kind of a little bit behind like cardiac, like everybody knows what the symptoms of a heart attack are. We kind of need to get that for neurological diseases, and that's going to be a really big push. Mm-hmm. I think we're out of time.
Yeah, I think we are. We have time for one.
Way
we're
over.
out of time. All right. Thank you all, and
Thank you.